Hillary Clinton is looking for a 5-state sweep today. 384 delegates are at stake. Her rival Bernie Sanders is down in the delegate count and in the polls. Despite that, he insists that he is sticking to his plan to stay in the race all the way to the convention. Kristina, Schake, who is the Deputy Communications Director for Hillary for America, is here with us today. Thanks for being here.
Hi, great to be here.
So let me ask you, if Secretary Clinton sweeps the primaries, how do you view the state of the Democratic race?
You know, we're just not taking anything for granted. We have 5 important contests today. She's out there working her heart out to try and do the best that she can today, but we feel really confident about where we are. You know, because of the big coalition she's been able to put together and the commanding wins she's had in states like Florida and Ohio, she's ahead by 2.7 million votes at this point over Senator Sanders. So we feel really confident, but she's not taking anything for granted. She's out there working hard to gain every vote she can.
Yeah, and yet Senator Sanders has clearly ignited a movement in this country. He's forced your candidate to talk about some of the issues that he's very passionate about. Does that somehow, I mean, if it comes down to trying to unify the party, how is she going to do that if she isn't sort of listening to what his people are saying, what the people that support him are saying?
You know what? Hillary is by nature a listener, and she's by nature a uniter. And so she will, if she's fortunate enough to be the Democratic nominee, of course, take into account all that she's learned from the incredible campaign that he's run. But I have to say, these are issues that she is passionate about too, and her message is really resonating, and I think we see that by how far ahead she is. You know, she has been talking about holding Wall Street accountable, about making college more affordable, bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. There's so much between these candidates that unites them and so much they agree upon, and so I think that's a really good thing for the Democratic Party.
But if Senator Sanders decides to stay in the race until the convention, does that sort of force her to continue to address him as opposed to turning to the general and focusing on the eventual Republican nominee?
Well, I think what Hillary's going to do is what she's done to this point that's put her in the leading position she's in, which is really focus on the issues that matter to American voters. I mean, she's been out there from the beginning talking about getting paid family leave, equal pay for women, the issues that American families really care about in this election, and she's going to keep focusing on those kind of issues.
I want to ask you about something that Donald Trump said earlier today on another network. He said that Hillary is playing the woman card. When you hear a statement like that, what does she think? What do you think?
Well, you know, as she said, one of the assets that she would bring to the Oval Office is being a woman. And what that means is she has experience with the issues that women really care about today from personal experience, and will work really hard on the issues that we care about, from equal pay to defending Planned Parenthood to paid family leave to quality child care. These are really important issues to Hillary because she's lived them. And I also have to say they're not just women's issues. Those are economic growth strategies, and that's how Hillary sees it.
So Senator Sanders has consistently asked for Secretary Clinton to release speeches that she made to Wall Street firms. She said that she would do it if other candidates did it as well. Obviously, he comes back and says, I'll do that because I haven't done any of those speeches. So is she planning on doing that if, for example, the other candidates running for the GOP nomination do that?
You know, I think this is a real double standard. At this point, no other candidate has been asked to release these kind of speeches, and she's being asked to do it. And so when others do it, she would certainly do it too, but she just wants to be held to the same standard. But you know what I think is really important here is that this came from an attack of Senator Sanders saying that she was somehow beholden to Wall Street because of donations. But when he was questioned about that, to name a single instance where that proved to be true, he couldn't come up with one because there isn't one. And so, you know, I think that that's a really important point here. This is an attack he's making against her character, but couldn't name a single piece of evidence that that's ever been the case. I also think what's important here is that independent analysts, op-eds, I mean, editorial boards across the country, economists like Paul Krugman have all said she actually has the toughest, most comprehensive plan of how to hold Wall Street accountable. So I think people can really count on her to do that as president.
So how do you sell that message to the American people when they say, look, you've taken money from these firms? Are you telling us, the American people, that even though you've accepted money to deliver these speeches, that you can hold them accountable, you can make them become transparent and more accountable to the investors and shareholders and the American people?
Yeah, well, what Hillary always says is, look at my track record. She was a United States Senator for 8 years. So look at what she's actually done. Look at what she did to hold Wall Street accountable, and look at her plan going forward. I think that that message is really resonating. We see with how far ahead she is in this contest.
All right, let me ask you something else. Senator Sanders has said that his support would depend upon how willing Secretary Clinton was to consider and adopt some of his agenda items, including free college tuition, health care, a $15 minimum wage, and that he would be allowed to participate in the crafting of that platform. Is that something that she's prepared to do?
You know, I think what's really important here is what Senator Sanders himself said last night, which is he will do whatever it takes to make sure a Republican doesn't win the White House. I mean, there is so much more that unites us and divides us as Democrats. And so these are issues Hillary cares about too, and will continue to campaign on them going forward. But I think it's really important what he said last night about that he will make sure, do everything possible to make sure a Republican doesn't win the White House. And you know, that's what Hillary did in 2008. She lost a very close, spirited campaign, and she understood what was at stake in that election and felt it was really important for her to campaign her heart out for President Obama, and that's what she did.
She'd be willing to support a $15 minimum wage and free college tuition?
Well, you know, she has different plans for both of those things, and I think her plans are really the ones that are resonating with voters because she's so far ahead in this race.
All right, let me ask you one last question.
Yes.
We saw something kind of unusual yesterday. Ted Cruz sort of talking about perhaps Carly Fiorina being his vice presidential nominee. Now, that's really unusual this early in the primary season to have people that have not actually won the nomination banning about a vice presidential pick. But has Secretary Clinton looked at a list, a long list, a short list of people that she might consider if she's the eventual nominee?
Right now, she's so focused on these primaries. She's just not.
She doesn't talk to anybody?
She's not getting ahead of herself. She is out there working to win these primaries. And you saw her yesterday. She was in Pennsylvania and Delaware. Today, she's going to be back in Pennsylvania. She's really taking this one contest at a time, and she's just doing everything she can to earn every vote.
All right. Kristina, Schake, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.